my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com. It's titled, "The GOP Crushed America's Historical Vision. Can They Be Stopped?" And the essence of this is that countries don't just exist as geography. They're not just, okay, we're North America and we're from Canada to Mexico. That's the United States. Countries also exist in a psychological space, a head space, an understanding of who they are and where they came from and all that sort of thing. And in many ways, this is the culture wars debate that's going on in the United States right now, where you've got Republicans trying to, theoretically, like in the schools and whatnot, trying to say, oh no, we're a happy country, everything's always been wonderful, and white people just ran everything just great, and we don't want to talk about what happened to the Native Americans or the black people or the Hispanics. Thank you very much. Probably don't even want to cover the Asian Exclusion Act of 1886, I think it was, 1888. We'd just rather, have this happy view of America. So that's kind of the Republican pitch when it comes to education. No more critical race theory. But on the other hand, the Republican pitch when it comes to talking to Republican voters is very dark. It's very negative story about America. And what they're doing. I mean, right now you've got Congress and Republicans in Congress and the House of Representatives who are actively talking about how much they want to crash the U.S. economy by refusing to fund the government, specifically so that it will produce a recession which will hurt Joe Biden's reelection prospects. You've got Coach Tommy Tuberville in the United States Senate kneecapping our military, keeping the top positions in the Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marine Corps open, I think, in hopes of a President Trump presidency. And yesterday, Tuberville came out and said that Ukraine got attacked by Russia because we provoked it, that we caused Ukraine to get into a war with Russia, when in fact Russia caused Russia to get into a war against Ukraine. And it's not even a war, it's an ongoing terrorist attack. But don't tell that to Coach Tuberville. Senator Rand Paul got caught flying to Russia to hand-deliver top-secret documents to Putin's men on behalf of Donald Trump. Shortly thereafter, the CIA sent out an alert to its stations around the world warning that our agents were the subject of the most successful, precisely targeted campaign of murder and assassination in the agency's history. Republicans at all levels across the country promulgate the lie that elections are rigged. It's this whole kind of hated, negative view of America that the Republicans are pushing. 4 out of 10 Republicans now, 2 out of 5, say that violence against their neighbors to achieve political goals in the United States is now justified. I mean, let that sink in. Instead of viewing Democrats as people that they have political disagreements with, 57% of Republicans now say Democrats are America's, quote, enemies. Ever since Fred Koch started funding the John Birch Society back in the 50s and 60s with his, impeach Earl Warren billboards, Republicans have used the issue of race and its subset, immigration, as a wedge to tear American people apart. As we're experiencing, ongoing battering by climate change, Republicans are out there saying drill, baby, drill, and climate change is a hoax. On the Supreme Court, 6 Republicans have their hands out to the morbidly rich. And then, in exchange for vacations and trips and speaking fees and all kinds of stuff like that, they then reward those billionaires by legalizing voter purges, legalizing political bribery, gutting worker protections. We've got GOP-aligned billionaire social media CEOs tweaking their algorithms to promote anti-Semitism, Nazism, homophobia, anti-government violence, and racial hate. You've got 2 Republican-controlled states that have already begun, Florida and Arizona, that have already begun, well, it was Republican-controlled when this was put into place in Arizona, have already begun the process, the controlled demolition of their statewide school systems, public school systems. Both Arizona and Florida now have statewide voucher systems. Any kid in the state can get a voucher. And down in Florida, you don't just get the voucher. You can, if you don't use all that money from the voucher, you can go to Disneyland. You can buy games, computer games and things. I mean, it's totally bizarre. Anything to get kids out of public schools, anything to destroy the public schools down in Florida. Death rates from COVID are twice as high in red counties than in blue counties because Republican politicians have rejected COVID science, climate, and they reject climate science as well. As the physically largest democratic republic in Europe is under terrorist attack from Russia, Republicans in Congress, that would be Ukraine, they've been hit with chemical weapons, they've been hit with rape as a weapon of war. As that is happening, Republicans in Congress are trying to cut or end altogether U.S. aid to Ukraine. Republicans in multiple red states have put targets on the backs of pregnant women and their friends and family, asserting that they can prosecute when women go out of state to get an abortion. The so-called party of law and order is regularly attacking the FBI and other law enforcement agencies when they go after corrupt Republican politicians like Donald Trump. When Nazis demonstrated in Florida last week with Ron DeSantis posters and swastika flags, Ron DeSantis didn't say a word about it. Donald Trump refers to his Nazi supporters as good people on both sides. Republican politicians are actively working to try to destroy America's faith in our criminal justice system, in our system of courts, and our jury system. And fascists are openly recruiting for and joining our military and police departments, preparing for the end days battle, the final race war in America that they've been fantasizing about ever since the Turner Diaries came out in the 70s. This was Tim McVeigh's favorite book. George Conway, a longtime Republican lawyer, the husband of, or now ex-husband of Kellyanne Conway, who was Trump's press secretary. George Conway, a couple of days ago, was on Morning Joe, and he told Joe Scarborough, he said, quote, he's referring to the Republican Party, he said, they hate the United States military because it's part of the United States government. The Republicans have become anti-American, anti-government, anti-United States. That's their shtick now. That's why they're attacking the State Department, the FBI, prosecutors, and they attack the institutions that normally Republicans were very, very supportive of. Now it's just this nihilistic attack on American institutions. So where's all this coming from? Well, I identified three drivers for this. If you have others, I'd love to hear from you. But the three drivers that I'm seeing are, number one, right-wing billionaires who don't want to pay taxes to support takers and moochers like you and me. They don't want to have to pay taxes to fund Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public schools and colleges, public roads, libraries, public health programs, or anything else that they think should be privatized so that they can make a buck off it. I mean, these guys started in the 1970s with the Powell memo, and they've really moved a long way now. Second, so the first influence that is tearing America apart like this are the right-wing billionaires. Second are Vladimir Putin and his pals in Saudi Arabia, China, and other wealthy dictatorships. They are spending literally billions of dollars trolling social media and other propaganda channels to try to trash America to Americans, to get Americans skeptical or cynical or even hateful of their own country. And it's working. And then third is Putin's wholly owned man, Donald Trump. He's a world-class grifter and career criminal who's been helping Putin's oligarchs launder, ill-gotten gains through real estate for decades, according to his sons. And, he wants to take over America, just like Putin wants to help him take over America so that he can institute one-party, neo-fascist, white supremacist strongman rule. There was a time in this country when we thought fascism was bad. In the 1940s, the U.S. government made a movie about this. It was called Don't Be a Sucker. I've got the YouTube of that embedded in my article today at hartmannreport.com if you want to see it. The Army, throughout World War II, was publishing a pamphlet, a regular monthly pamphlet called Army Talks. And they used to talk at length about the threat of fascism to the United States, where it came from, how it plays out. But we don't do that anymore. We're not pushing back on these people. And I think we need to. I think the GOP has done so much damage to our country by basically rewriting our story of who we are And, well, not just rewriting it. I mean, you know, obviously the story of America as a theocratic white supremacist state has been around for a long, long time. But try to cement that into reality now and just discard the whole civil rights era and everything else. This is doing incredible damage to our country.